Welcome to a More Beautiful World podcast with Susan Renee, a place for those of us with the desire to expand our consciousness, tap into higher vibrations of love, and to connect into a community where together we can make the world a more beautiful place. I'm so eager to share with you what I've learned on my journey in discovering how we're all connected and how what we do for one, we do for us all. Here, I'll be sharing my own experiences, knowledge, and expertise for how you can heal, transform, and ascend your being so that together we can create the more beautiful world we all know is possible. Well, hello and welcome to another episode of A More Beautiful World. And I'm super excited to bring you part one of this three-part series because in today's episode, we are going to begin the story of my journey with grandfather Huachuma. And in this episode specifically, I'm going to share with you some knowledge and information about the oldest known psychedelic plant medicine known as Huachuma, which comes from the Huachuma cactus. And in part one, again, of this three-part series, I'm going to help you understand more about this sacred plant medicine, its ceremonial uses and benefits, along with why I was specifically called to this medicine, and also what my intentions were for going into a week-long retreat and ceremony with this medicine. In parts 2 and 3 of this series, I'll go into more details about my experience during the week-long retreat, the lessons and the blessings that transpired during the integration process, and really try to capture the ineffable experience that Huachuma had brought me. So today, if you are ready to learn more about this beautiful psychedelic plant medicine that we know as Huachuma and the benefits that it maybe can offer you on your journey, then this episode is for you. First off, I am dedicating this episode and really this whole three-part series to my dear brother Parker, who recently left his human body and transitioned to the other side. Were it not for Parker, this episode and my experience with Huachuma would not have been possible. Parker was on a mission to raise the consciousness of humanity and was dedicated to his shamanic medicine path. And he was even going to write a book to capture the wisdom and knowledge he had acquired along his journey. And so since that will never come to the world, I want to dedicate this to Parker as I will be sharing some of his information today on Huachuma. So with that, this episode and these next two episodes, they are dedicated to you, my dear brother Parker, para el bien de todos, which means for the good of all. Now, with all of my medicine journeys, I am dropping in a quick disclaimer. I'm only here to share my experience with this medicine. And before we dive in too deep to the episode today, I want to make a disclaimer that I do not assume any liability for the application of the information contained in this podcast. I am presenting all of this information solely to further the quest for a fuller understanding of the human experience and how I believe we can use these medicines to make this a more beautiful world for us all. With that, I am not recommending you go out and use this medicine without some deep thought and consideration, ensuring it really is in alignment for where you are at on your journey, which I'm always happy to help you understand and talk to you about. But with that, remember what we do for one, we do for us all. And it's always my intention in sharing these experiences, from the medicine that I received, the downloads and the messages, they reach you in divine timing and help to guide you on your own journey as they have done for me. So now, as always, I do want to start with a quick little question for you and do a little reflection on this. Do you feel that you need clarity in your life? Or do you feel like you have all the clarity you need right now? I would guess, most of us are going to say we could use more clarity in our life. And one of the main benefits of ceremony work with Huachuma, and really a lot of the plant, the psychedelic plant medicines, is to help us find clarity on our journey. And I found a lot of clarity during this ceremony retreat week in working with the psychedelic plant medicine Huachuma. And while I'm super eager to share with you all about the clarity that I found, in today's episode, I do want to specifically make sure you have a full grasp of this medicine. So we're going to cover, what is Huachuma? Where did it come from? What's its history? We're also going to, as I go through that, I'm going to share with you a little bit about the church I sat with, because I always want you to make sure, and choosing any plant medicine journey, you're going into it with integrity, right? And you're joining a circle and a ceremony that holds high integrity. But I also will finish up this episode today talking about why I chose to have this experience with the psychedelic plant medicine Huachuma, and really what led me to say yes to this medicine, which I can tell you, a little teaser, it's about clarity. So let's, really just kind of open up our minds, open up our hearts today as we drop into this episode, and, go into it with curiosity, and really resonate and feel into that question. Do you feel you need more clarity in your life? And I hope that, all of these episodes in this series can bring you some clarity as it has for me. So again, in part 2 of this series, I will share more about the structure of the retreat, some of the experiences that transpired across the week, and how, the medicine worked with me, how I worked with the medicine. And I'm also really excited to share with you some of the gorgeous, ineffable moments that occurred for me during the week. And in part 3, I will share more about my experiences, but really connecting in the lessons and the blessings that came from all of those magical experiences during my integration process. But for today, let's dive in and answer the first question that may be on your mind. What is Huachuma? Well, Huachuma is a mescaline-containing psychedelic tea that comes from the Huachuma cactus. This cactus, Huachuma, is a Quechua word. It's what our indigenous tribes called this beautiful cactus. It's also known as San Pedro. During this podcast, I will lovingly refer to it only as Huachuma. But the Huachuma medicine, it does create very powerful visionary experiences, and it has these serotonergenic effects that can last anywhere from 8 to 14 hours. All right, because each brew can be a little different in strength depending on your curanderos, huachumeros, the ones who perform the ceremony and make the medicine. But Huachuma tradition began back in the Chavin culture in Peru over 4,000 years ago. And that does make it the oldest recorded psychedelic plant medicine. At least per my research. If you know of an older one out there or have research to say otherwise, please let me know. But Don Howard, Maestro Don Howard, who was the maestro of my huachumeros, my curanderos that I sat with at the church, Don Howard, he really brought the Huachuma medicine back to life and brought in the Chavin culture's roots and ceremonies through his medicine retreat center called Spirit Quest down in Peru. And he really dedicated his life to plant medicines and to really reviving these beautiful plant medicines in the traditional culture, in the cultural ways. So he revived the traditional Huachuma Mesada tradition, and he taught his mentees to do the same, of which my dear brother Parker Sherry was one of them, which is who this podcast is dedicated to. So, Huachuma and sitting with the medicine, it really is like living a lifetime in one day when you're in the medicine. And we'll talk more about that next episode. But it is a very heart-opening experience and a very heart-opening medicine. So again, the psychedelic compound in the Huachuma tea is called mescaline. Mescaline is also present in peyote. They're kind of like brother or cousin medicines to each other. But in this very heart opening experience, as it was explained to me, which I hope resonates with you, it kind of clears out some of the stuck energies and the dysfunction in your lower chakras, where you're kind of like dumping the shit, you're clearing the shit out of your lower chakras. So you can open up your heart and get that energy to rise up the Kundalini center and open your heart. And that then kind of blasts you upwards through your throat, your third eye, and your crown chakra. So you can really ascend the energy into the higher chakras, out your crown chakra, and connect into the divine, into the quantum field, into the universe, to God, whatever you want to call it. It all is welcome here. But it really is a powerful experience. And, one of the Huachumeros said, that Huachuma is everything that MDMA wishes it could be. If you're familiar with MDMA or you have experienced MDMA, I know I have, and that statement really resonated with me now that I have, experienced Huachuma and I have experienced MDMA, that Huachuma is everything MDMA wishes it was. Because again, I have done MDMA several times and I felt like it was all of the benefits of an MDMA experience, like times 10, but without any of the downer and downside effects, because there are, MDMA coming down off that medicine can be really difficult, but that maybe is for another episode. But to help you truly understand, what Huachuma is, what this church was about, I want to share a little bit from my dear brother, Parker, who was one of the founders of the church, in the retreat that I sat in, which the church was named Bridge to One. And Parker was so gifted at explaining things and bringing his light and his wisdom to the world. So I want to share a little bit about the church, a little bit about Huachuma and the Chavin culture, and just what Parker had written about it. So again, the church I sat with is called Bridge to One. So I'm going to start kind of just talking a little bit about the church and, really what they were all about, and how they're connected to Huachuma. So Bridge to One was a shamanic church inspired by the great Chavin cultural movement of pre-Columbian Peru. The mission is to bridge this rich shamanic legacy into a singular path of unification, transformation, and ascension. The mission at Bridge to One is to be of service to the holistic healing, unification, transformation, and ascension to higher states of consciousness for all sincere seekers. We facilitate profound spiritual realization, wholehearted communal connection, and deep-seated personal empowerment for those who feel called to our work. Together, we are better. Our ethos is based on the idea that everyone, irrespective of whatever point they may perceive themselves to be on the path, is an ascending master, remembering their mastery. Everyone is a master. Everyone is an apprentice. Everyone is a teacher. Everyone is a student. Everyone is a mystic. Everyone is a healer. And each one of us holds the medicine our wounded world so desperately needs. Bridge to One is more than a church. We are a movement. We are building new culture. We are collectively dreaming and realizing the more beautiful world our hearts know is possible. So I'm going to pause there. But I bet just in that last statement alone, you can tell why I resonated so deeply with this church, because it is about making it a more beautiful world. And a little side note and interjection here on Parker's share. This specific church did decide to dissolve. I will not get into those details here. However, some of the same founders are founding a new church with this same mission, with the same intention and integrity and process of creation, and they are, they're being created out of the same principles and honoring the same mission, vision, and practices. So that is the magic that is available in sitting in ceremony with Huachuma, in this tradition, right? So I want to talk a little bit about, and again, this is from Parker's share. I want to talk a little bit about what the church's connection was to the Chavin culture, because I think we have to honor the Chavin culture who brought us this beautiful plant medicine. So, here's what Parker had to say about the church's connection with the Chavin culture. We are a bridge to the Chavin culture and the sacramental use of Huachuma. Chavin was a profound spiritual movement in South America that began more than 3,500 years ago. Don Howard, the renowned Huachumero and an incredible historian of Chavin, articulated that the Huachuma experience at Chavin was centered on the three principles of unification, transformation, and ascension. The unification starts in the heart, and together we are transformed, and together we ascend. With devotion and roots in the Chavin culture and Peruvian shamanism, the church believes that collective healing and spiritual evolution are facilitated through the sacramental and communal consumption of the Huachuma cactus. Historical and cultural precedent unequivocally demonstrate how the ritualistic use of Huachuma at Chavin was used as the sacrament of a religion and how it ushered in a golden age throughout much of South America. The Chavin culture built an admirable civilization based on Huachuma and its sacramental use. We pay deep homage to that Chavin culture, the cradle of Andean civilization, one of the great historical spiritual pulses of human consciousness. We seek to continue that renaissance of consciousness birthed at Chavin that was revived and ushered into this modern era by Don Howard. The ministry of our church exemplifies for the good of all, para el bien de todos, in a completely non-judgmental and non-exclusive way. So I'm going to pause there and just add in some commentary before I finish up Parker's share here on the medicine. Don Howard is also, again, a dear maestro. He has since transitioned to the other side as well, along with Parker. So, I would say I also dedicate this episode to Don Howard because he was instrumental in making sure that this medicine, in its awakening, is really in the pulse and the spirit of raising human consciousness, right? In honoring the Chavin culture. And again, the church and this experience really stands for para el bien de todos, for the good of all. Because as I tell you all the time, what we do for one, we do for us all. And so, sitting with this medicine, that really resonated with me because I believe, everything I do to better myself, right, helps you, right? Because for the good of me is for the good of you, para el bien de todos. So I'm going to kind of finish Parker's share here with a little bit about why Huachuma, and why Huachuma is chosen, as a medicine that the church was working with. And we'll get into a little bit there about, what Huachuma is and how Don Howard and how Parker, really felt the medicine could deliver healing and spiritual healing to us so we can make this a more beautiful world. So this is again from Parker. Don Howard expressed that ayahuasca is, for a majority of people, but not certainly for everyone, the superior holistic healer. In his view, Huachuma is, for a majority of people, but certainly not for everyone, the superior spiritual healer and teacher. Huachuma is a heart-opening, crown-blasting experience I don't know that there's a better teacher than Huachuma for helping people truly understand the nature of energy and synergy. Huachuma is a loving, benevolent, grandfatherly energy that gently, powerfully, or powerfully, gently takes you by the hand and uplevels you to the next octave of consciousness. That elevated plane of consciousness becomes your new baseline of consciousness. More than anything, Huachuma teaches you about the supreme sacredness of the human experience and the spiritual nature of the human experience. Huachuma and Don Howard have taught me, this is Parker, that this human realm here on Mother Earth is every bit as sacred as any other realm. Huachuma gives people an acute awareness of the concept of reciprocity and a sense of connectedness to Mother Nature and to the cosmos. Don Howard used to say that most people will never quite be the same after a Huachuma experience. Why is that? Because you realize the true magnitude of what's going on around you. And that sticks. That has real staying power. Indeed, as the maestro Don Howard asserted, once you really see the beauty in the world, you'll never let it leave you. Thank you, Parker, for those beautiful words and beautiful share. And I hope I did it justice in capturing it here. But that's all from my intro email to the church from Parker, before I decided to sit with the medicine. And with that information, which I abbreviated a bit to make sure we could capture it all in this episode. But with that, how could I not say yes? Right? I love sitting in circles with high integrity, and I really appreciated, their connection to the Chavin culture and honoring the traditions there, and how this really is about the spiritual expansion and getting to, a new plane of consciousness, right? This elevated plane of consciousness. And also, with the phrase and saying, para el bien de todos, right? For the good of all. And with the intention of making this a more beautiful world, it was game on, right? Game on. So a little bit more, to kind of get you ready for the next episode, I want to speak to you a little bit on why I chose this medicine. Again, I think from that reading, right, you can probably see why I chose it, but I want to talk a little bit about where I was at in my life, because I feel as you're listening to this, if you're considering a plant medicine ceremony, it's important to know when the plants come in to kind of guide us and say, yes, please sit with me, come ceremony with me, let me help guide you. And as I've experienced it, most of those messages from the plants come in at some tricky times when maybe we do need some clarity in our lives. So at this time in my life, just to kind of give you timeline, I was getting connected to the church in March of 2022. And where I was at in my life, I had just broken off a 20-month long relationship. That was primarily a long distance relationship. But at that time, we had just moved in together about 2 months prior. We were cohabitating, but the relationship was not for me. The details of that I will give you in another episode. But the ex was triggering me in a lot of ways. I was feeling super triggered. I had a lot of PTSD showing up, and I was feeling super unsafe. So there I am living with my ex in Arkansas, by the way. I had just picked up my life at the beginning of January of 2022, left Phoenix, left everything I had known for the last 15 years behind. I had closed my in-person practice, and I moved to a tiny town of Fort Smith, Arkansas, with my partner who was in the military. And in March of 2022, it had all fallen apart. I mean, the shit had just hit the fan in every way, shape, and form. And I really had no fucking clue what to do. Um, again, I was experiencing some PTSD based on, some childhood trauma, based on past relationship trauma. I was starting to have anxiety and panic attacks again. I was struggling with some depression. And in this very, kind of fucked up spot in my life, where everything had just like all the visions I thought were going to unfold just weren't happening, right? I was feeling a bit depressed and I felt like I really needed clarity on my next steps. Um, I believe, depression, anxiety come in, triggered by trauma when we're out of alignment. There's something out of our alignment, whether it be in our experience, whether it be in our belief systems. And I knew for sure my life as it sat was out of alignment with what my true north is, with what my highest self is. And so, as it mentioned, in Parker's email that I shared, Huachuma is an amazing spiritual teacher and healer. And I felt so called to say yes to the medicine and to say yes to the retreat because I knew I needed guidance on the spiritual side, for really what to do next in my life and to get that clarity on my alignment, to get clarity on purpose, to get clarity on just what the hell I'm supposed to do because it had all fallen apart. All the plans I had made just kind of went right out the door. So that was the reason, I feel I was connected to the medicine. I feel it's the reason I said yes to the experience. And that was a beautiful gift. One of my dear brothers was really good friends with Parker and had been for a few years. And he's the one who connected me to Parker and this church and this, Huachuma experience. So it's amazing how the divine plan unfolds for us and guides us to these experiences. And it truly found me in divine timing. And as I've said in previous episodes, you want to say yes when it is a full body fuck yes, right? And this was a full body fuck yes for me. So game on. I said yes to ceremony. And as soon as you say yes to ceremony, you better make sure you get clear on your intentions. That is the prep work really needed to make the most out of your ceremony experiences. So to finish up this episode a little bit, I want to talk a bit about my intentions. And, as I've sat with, previous to my Huachuma experience, I had sat with ayahuasca 2 times. I had sat with Bufo. If you want to know more about those experiences, check out those episodes because there are some good ones. But ultimately, my intentions for ayahuasca and even for Bufo felt a little bit more complex isn't quite the right word, but pointed. When it came to Huachuma and setting my intention and just like really feeling into it, my intention was super simple and it was clarity. I wanted clarity on what I needed to, to do to just get out of this cycle that I was in of choosing relationships that didn't serve me and also clarity on where to go next in my life. Because I was pretty sure at that moment I wasn't meant to stay in Fort Smith, Arkansas, although a very lovely town. I did enjoy my time there. But I wanted clarity on how to get back into alignment, again, with my true north, which I refer to as my higher self, and really reconnect with spirit for healing and for guidance. And I was very open to what that looked like. I just knew with the anxiety, with the panic attacks, with the depression, I was out of alignment. And all I really wanted was some clarity on how to get back into alignment. So again, while a bit of a simple intention, it really, I think sometimes power comes from the simplicity, right? And so with that, I'm going to leave you a little cliffhanger because I will say my intention, as always, was met by grandfather Huachuma and his loving energy. And we're going to talk about that in part 2 of this series, which will be the next episode. So again, in part 2, I will be sharing details of the retreat week, and I'm going to do my best to put words around the ineffable experiences that unfolded that week. Again, sitting with Huachuma is like experiencing a lifetime in a day. So capturing the fullness and richness of the experiences was a little challenging. We'll get into that next episode too, but I'm going to do my best to share with you what unfolded. And then again, the episode after that, part 3 of this Huachuma series, I'm going to share all the lessons and all the blessings that came from integration and really working with this gorgeous psychedelic plant medicine we lovingly know as Huachuma. And again, my intentions were met. And so I'll be excited to tell you all about that. But with that, tribe, let's remember, right? This is all about making the world a more beautiful place. And that begins with you. And as you better, right, you better yourself, you move through your own healing, you move through your own transformation, you are beautifying this world. And you can do that with plant medicine, be it food, be it herbs, be it our psychedelic plant medicines. They all are here as your teachers to help guide you, on your journey. So I hope you found this part 1 episode helpful on understanding and appreciating Huachuma, its cultural heritage, its tradition, its ancient wisdom. And as always, I really appreciate you being on your healing journey with me. As always, if you need support on your journey, as you're healing from the anxiety, from the trauma, and if you're curious about how to work with these plant medicines and are interested in learning more, make sure you grab your free clarity call with me below. I would love to, connect you to medicine circles. If that is in alignment for you, I'd be honored to guide you as well on your healing and on your transformation journey. But that is all for today, my dear tribe. Until next time, mwah, sending much love to you all. Hey, tribe. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this podcast, make sure to like the video below and then click subscribe so you never miss an episode. And remember, I've got lots of free resources available to you to support your healing, transformation, and ascension so you can help in making this a more beautiful world for us all. Make sure you check them out in the description below. Thanks again for tuning in, tribe. And until next time, much love to you all.